Adobea married dies in 1 year. She was a beautiful woman every man wants to marry. For 3 years she lost all her beloved husbands. No one knows what was killing the men, until one day, her parents decided to find a solution. They went to a village priest to find a solution to her problem. The priest gave her parents a strange liquid substance looking like a blood to bath without any explanation. He told them to let Adobea bath it on her next marriage ceremony so history won't repeat again. They paid a sum of money and joyful went home with the water. The liquid was kept in a small clay pot, sealed with black cloth and tied with a red thread. Adobea's mother was warned not to open it, not to smell it, and never to allow it touch the ground. At night, Adobea could hear her parents whispering in their room, fear mixing with hope. She asked many questions, but her parents only told her that everything would be fine this time. Months passed, and as fate would have it, another suitor arrived. His name was Kwaku Mensah, a trader from a far town who had heard stories of Adobea's beauty but dismissed the rumors as village gossip. He was confident, cheerful, and deeply taken by her gentle nature. Adobea's heart trembled with fear, yet she felt warmth again, something she thought had died with her last husband. The wedding preparations began quietly. Unlike the previous ceremonies filled with music and dancing, this one carried a strange tension. The elders noticed Adobea growing pale as the day approached. At night, she dreamed of her late husband standing by a river, calling her name, their voices echoing like distant drums. On the morning of the wedding, her mother brought out the clay pot. The liquid inside seemed thicker than before, dark and warm, as though alive. Adobea hesitated when she saw it. The smell was unfamiliar, not foul, not pleasant. Her hands shook as her mother reminded her of the priest's instructions. No prayers were to be said during the bath. No one was to watch. As Adobea poured the liquid over her body, she felt a burning sensation on her skin. Her breath caught, and for a moment, she thought she would scream, but no sound came out. Images flashed before her eyes, faces, shadows, and a forest she had never been to. When the bath was over, the liquid vanished, soaking into the ground as if it had never existed. The wedding ceremony began shortly after. Kwaku noticed something different about Adobea. Her eyes seemed deeper, darker, as if they held secrets she herself did not understand. When he held her hand, a chill ran through his spine, but he smiled and dismissed it as nerves. Days turned into weeks. Nothing happened. 1 month passed, then 2. The villagers began to whisper again, this time in confusion. Adobea's parents watched every movement, every cough, every breath Kwaku took. Each night Adobea stayed awake, listening to his heartbeat beside her, counting the days, waiting for death that did not come, but strange things began to occur. Animals avoided their house. The fire would go out on its own. Kwaku started having dreams of a woman bathing in blood, standing at the edge of his bed, staring at him without blinking. When he told Adobea, she felt cold fear crawl up her spine. Yet she said nothing. One evening, Adobea noticed dark marks appearing on her skin, faint at first, like shadows beneath the flesh. She tried to scrub them away, but they only spread slowly. She remembered the priest's eyes, how they avoided her parents' gaze, how his voice lowered when he spoke of the bath. As the months continued, Kwaku grew weaker, not sick, but tired, as if something was draining him slowly. Adobea began to realize that the history had not ended, it had only changed its rhythm. She started hearing whispers at dawn, calling her by a name she had never known, a name older than Adobea itself, and each time she tried to tell her parents, the words refused to leave her mouth. Days passed, and everything seemed not to be all right. Kwaku's health became worse while he sent Adobea everywhere for treatment to ensure the black spots on her body disappeared. Kwaku also started seeking medical treatment since he was not feeling well himself. Kwaku's money started getting finished because of excessive spending and too many demands for treatment for both of them. They traveled to 8 neighboring villages to see different specialists, but nothing worked. Adobea began to smell bad. which restricted her from visiting public places. Villagers laughed at her, gossiped, and made fun of her predicament. But her beloved husband stood by her despite everything. One day, a festival was organized by the chief of the Adobea kingdom, and many people were there to grace the occasion. A seer noticed a strange smell around and decided to walk closer. The seer was an old man, bent with age, his eyes cloudy yet sharp, as though they could see beyond flesh and bone. As he moved closer to the crowd, the smell became stronger, heavier, pressing against his chest. He stopped walking and leaned on his staff, scanning the faces of the people dancing and laughing. His gaze settled on Adobea, who stood quietly beside Kwaku, her head covered with a thick cloth. The seer's expression changed. His grip tightened on the staff, and he began to mutter words no one could understand. People nearby noticed and slowly stepped away from him. He followed the smell until he stood directly in front of Adobea and Kwaku. The music softened as curious eyes turned toward them. "This smell is not ordinary," the seer said softly. "It is not sickness, and it is not dirt." Kwaku stepped forward protectively. "My wife is unwell," he replied. "We have taken her everywhere. Please, old father, do not disgrace her here." The seer ignored him and circled Adobea slowly. With each step, his face grew darker. He stopped and struck the ground with his staff once. "This woman has been touched by something older than this land," he said. "Something that does not release what it claims." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Adobea felt her knees weaken. The whispers she had been hearing at dawn echoed loudly in her ears. She felt heat beneath her skin, and the black spots burned as though alive. Kwaku demanded answers. "If you know something, say it. We have suffered enough." The seer looked at him with pity. "Young man, your strength is fading because you are standing too close to what feeds on life." Before Kwaku could respond, Adobea let out a low cry. The smell intensified, causing people to cover their noses and step back. Her body trembled violently, and she clutched her husband's arm to remain standing. The chief's guards began to approach, unsure whether to remove them or call for help. The seer raised his hand. "Do not touch her," he warned. "You may invite what follows her." Silence fell. Even the drums stopped. The chief himself stood from his seat, alarmed by the sudden tension. "What is happening here?" the chief asked. The seer bowed slightly. "My chief, this woman carries a ritual that was never meant to save her, only to delay a death." Adobea's heart pounded. Images flashed in her mind again: the clay pot, the red thread, the liquid soaking into the ground. Kwaku turned to her. "What ritual?" he asked, his voice weak. Adobea tried to speak, but her tongue felt heavy. Her mother's warning echoed in her head. The seer watched her struggle and nodded slowly. "She cannot say it," he said. "Her mouth is sealed by the act itself." The chief ordered that Adobea and Kwaku be taken aside, away from the crowd. They were led to a small hut near the palace grounds. Inside, the air felt thick and uneasy. The seer followed them in, leaning heavily on his staff. "You bathe in something given by a priest," the seer said calmly. "Something that looks like blood." Adobea's eyes widened. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she nodded slowly. Kwaku staggered backward and sat down heavily. "That was meant to save her," he whispered. "That was meant to stop death." The seer shook his head. "No ritual stops death without demanding something else." What was given to her was not protection, but ownership. Outside the hut, villagers gathered, whispering and pointing. Some claimed Adobea was cursed. Others said she was a witch. The smell continued to drift through the air, refusing to fade. The seer leaned closer to Adobea. "The marks on your body are signs of a bond forming," he said. "And your husband's weakness is the price being collected." Kwaku coughed violently, clutching his chest. Adobea rushed to his side, crying uncontrollably. "I don't want this," she sobbed. "I only wanted my husband to live." The seer closed his eyes briefly, as though listening to something unseen. "There may be a way," he said slowly, "but it is not simple." The seer asked, "Do you know any man called Monu?" Adobea cast her mind back and said yes. This man sacrificed a lot for her out of love, but she rejected him and refused to marry him because he could no longer see. This made him lock her up with a spiritual padlock and vow that no one would have her apart from him, even in death. Anyone who married her would die. The priest advised that they should look for Monu and unlock the padlock, as that could be the beginning of Adobea's freedom. The seer's voice was calm but heavy, like a stone dropped into deep water. Adobea's tears flowed freely as the memories returned clearly. Monu had loved her when she had nothing. He had worked for her parents, defended her name, and planned a future with her. But after the accident that left him unable to see, she turned away, ashamed of what people would say, afraid of a life she did not want. Kwoko listened in silence, his heart aching. The truth cut deeper than any sickness. The seer explained that Monu, broken in body and spirit, sought help from forces he did not fully understand. In his pain, he made a vow born from love and anger, binding Adobea's destiny to his own suffering. The priest who later gave the strange liquid only delayed the curse, he did not remove it. Without delay, the chief ordered that Monu be found. Messengers were sent to nearby villages. After days of searching, they found him living alone at the edge of the forest, forgotten by many, surviving on the kindness of strangers. When Adobea and Kwoko arrived, Monu looked away, his face hardened by years of pain. Adobea fell to her knees before him. She begged, cried, and confessed her wrongdoing without excuses. She admitted her pride, her fear, and the pain she caused. Kwoko also humbled himself, asking for forgiveness, not as a rival, but as a man whose life was tied to the curse. Monu remained silent for a long time. Dali, he spoke. His voice trembled, not with anger, but with deep sorrow. He said he never wished death upon her husbands, only that she would feel the pain he felt. Seeing her suffering and Kwoko's loyalty softened his heart. Guided by the seer, Monu agreed to release the vow. A simple ritual was performed, not with blood or fear, but with truth, forgiveness, and acceptance. As Monu spoke the words to unlock the spiritual padlock, Adobea felt a sudden relief wash over her body. The dark spots faded slowly, the smell vanished, and for the first time in years, she breathed freely. Kwoko's strength began to return in the following days. The whispers stopped. The dreams ended. Adobea was free. Moral lesson: love, when mixed with pride and rejection, can turn into destruction. Kindness, honesty, and forgiveness have power greater than fear or ritual. Never look down on those who sacrifice for you, for wounds of the heart can bind destinies longer than chains.